You know, I got asked this the most when I was fighting. I'd beat somebody up in sparring and they'd say to me, man, why do you keep beating me? Because I work harder than you and I'm better than you. Yeah, but what should I do different? There's nothing I can say to you that's going to stop me beating you. If I could just say a few words and you listen to them and then I couldn't beat you up anymore, then training would be pointless. Working would be pointless. The world doesn't work that way. I beat you up because I am better than you, and I am better than you because I worked harder than you. There's no shortcuts in life. I don't know why everyone's obsessed with shortcuts. It's this new generation of fucking losers. Success comes from working absolutely every single day. It's exactly the same with anything in life. Doesn't matter if you want to be strong in the gym, doesn't matter if you want to be an amazing fighter, good at guitar, or if you want to be successful inside of the real world. You are only going to be successful if you turn up and you work every single day. All I do is work every single day. Why do you think you're better than me? You think you're more qualified than me? If I have to work every single day, Andrew Tate has to work every single day to be successful, but me, Joe Schmo, Mr. Nobody, I don't have to work every single day. Turn up, follow the lessons, listen to your professors, do the AMAs. If you have a question, ask the community, and I guarantee you success. The only people who don't make money inside the real world are people who quit. I can't help quitters. Nobody can help a quitter. God can't help a quitter. God could give you a plan and said you can have everything you've ever desired if you follow this plan. If you quit halfway through the plan, you're not going to have what you desired. God himself cannot turn a quitter into a somebody. And I am certainly not as powerful as God. So nobody can do it if you are a quitter. If you don't work and you quit, you are going to fail. If you do exactly what we tell you to do, and you work hard and you actually try, you're going to be successful. So the question is, do you want it or not? There's no shortcuts. If you want to beat me in sparring, you're going to have to come and train harder than I train. And you have to dedicate yourself for as long as I have. And if you want to be rich, you're going to have to do exactly as we tell you to do. Don't ask any more stupid questions. I don't want to hear it. It's asinine. It hurts my brain. Losers lose because they quit. If you are indefatigable and you never quit, I will guarantee you success. The choice is yours. Highly competitive environment. You're performing. You're the main character in your own movie. Everyone is watching you, or you at least want them to. Everyone you interact with in your universe is paying attention to you. They all have an opinion of you based on what you have done and how you speak and the way you act and the way you dress and the things you've done. So you need to sit there and understand, what is the opinion people have of me? It becomes a natural mindset for me. I'm constantly under self-evaluation because I understand I'm constantly evaluated. And it's impossible for me to forget. It's impossible for me to underperform. What's the number one thing I say after podcasts sometimes? Fuck that one up. That was shit. I sit there and and some of my best podcasts, people are like, I love that, and it gets 20 million views. I'm like, oh, I said twice. And Tristan will sit here and I'll be in here fucking fuming, angry, like physically angry at myself for in a 5-hour podcast. I said twice and I missed a point. Because if you're not super hard on yourself, then who's gonna be hard on you, right? You have to be super, super hard on yourself. I would spar for 3 hours. And if I got hit once with a punch that could have been a KO, furious. True or not, Nigel? I didn't want to get hit the whole training. I wanted to beat the shit out of everybody and not have a mark. And if I got hit with one punch that could have been a KO, but that's all it takes is one punch. So you have to be a perfectionist all the time. And no one's ever going to become perfect. When you aim for perfect, you're going to be a lot better. So the point is, it's not practice that makes perfect. It's practice plus feedback. So you need to be doing constant feedback, constant evaluation all the time. Tristan just nailed it. You want motivation to train hard? Look in the mirror every single day. Look in the mirror every single day, and then look at some of the guys who are in the war and see the way some of them are built. Look at the way Nigel's built. How old are you? 48. 48, he's built like me. 6-pack, shredded, muscle, but 48, bro. Animal. You understand? So there's no excuse. And how it takes willpower and it's difficult. And I agree with you. It would take willpower and it would be difficult, which is exactly why I say fuck no to all of that garbage. I'm half black, half white. Please understand. It makes you afraid of some things, but fearless in the face of others. I don't see any of my brothers out there, my black brothers, talking about how good it is to be cold. In fact, I only see them saying the opposite, and that's how I know that I have black blood in me. I do not see the benefits of sitting and shaking and freezing in ice. This can actually be extrapolated to a lot of things. Do you ever see black people swim with sharks? It's like, bro, I'm black. My life's extreme enough. Why the fuck am I gonna go extreme sports? Rock climbing? Jumping out of a plane? This is all white people shit. White people love this. The cold shark.
works? Nah. We're afraid of all those things. Now, we're not afraid of a shootout. Cool. We're calm under those pressures. White people are scared of that. But it's kind of the way it works. The reason I have such a problem with all of this cold exposure shit, even though I know it takes willpower, I know it'd be difficult, is threefold. One, I refuse to believe there's any benefit at all. When I was fighting professionally, and I was genuinely hurt, I needed a warm bath, a warm bed, a warm chick. Here. 5 warm women. Who wants a cold bitch? No, hot ones. I needed warmth. Even when I injured myself, I never put ice on it. Ice it, put ice on it. Hasn't that been debunked? Someone at home can do something. I think that's actually been debunked. I never believed that crap. You need to heat it up. Heat is power. Firstly, there's no benefit. It's just people trying to act tough. Which leads into the second one, which genuinely upsets me about all this cold exposure shit. Everything is just code. And is an excuse for being too pussy to get through. I want the whole world to know that if you're afraid to fight, I know that you're afraid to fight. And there's nothing you can do that proves to me you're not afraid to fight besides fight. Everything is cope for being afraid to fight. Not just ice baths, but ice baths are a perfect example of it. If you find some tough alpha male guy, he's tough, he's an alpha male, and he's a motivational speaker, and he talks about willpower. Ice baths are great because they're so difficult to do, and you get in there and it's cold, and I did 7 minutes. Why don't you just get in the cage and fight? You're such a fucking tough guy, go fight. Oh, you're afraid to fight, so now you're trying to prove you're not a pussy by doing ice baths. It's the same with everything. Triathlons. I did a triathlon! Really? What'd you have to do? I had to ride my bike, then I had to run 20 miles, and I had to swim in a freezing cold river covered in shit, and I did all this, and it was so difficult. It took me 18 hours. It was so hard. Ironman triple triathlon. You did all that to try and prove you're not a pussy, and I still think you're a pussy. What the fuck? What a fucking waste of time. You could have just had a MMA fight. It's only 3 5-minute rounds, 15 minutes. You wasted 18 hours. You still look like a bitch? Talk about ice bath? I do an ice bath every morning for my mental clarity. But then why are you fucking dumb? Because compared to me, you're fucking stupid. I'm here in a hot tub. Pussy. True or false? True. Ice baths are cope for men who are scared to fight, trying to act like they're tough. And you can tell because you can tell the exact character of the people who do the ice baths. Just look at them. Anyone who talk about an ice bath, look at them. They go to the gym. They try and train a bit, and they do their ice baths, and talk about willpower, motivation, and they're married to some 7. Yeah. Woo, I made it. Got a blowjob once. Great. Lame. So I don't like ice baths. I'm actually against them. Now, I know you people at home are going to say, but Andrew, in your infinite wisdom, you've made a mistake, which of course is impossible. And they're going to say, what about the UFC fighters who fight, who also swear by ice baths? And my answer to that is, you only know who these people are because they fight, not because they do ice baths. They decide to do an ice bath because they're also brave enough to fight, which gives them significance. You're allowed to do something stupid if you do something cool. You're allowed. I do some shit that's pointless, but I'm top G. I'm known for being top G. I'm the best man in the world, which means I can occasionally indulge in something dumb, like getting in the fucking freezing cold water for 6.5 minutes, timing myself. Imagine thinking this is cool. Hello. And then getting out and going, I feel great. Fucking, are you gay? Are you gay? Are you fucking, I don't get it. I'm in a hot tub, I'm fine. I'll kick the fuck out of you. I will kick the living fuck out of you. These ice bath people, all these fucking, I'm not talking about the UFC fighters who do ice baths. We've just discussed how their only significance comes from the thing that's actually important, which is fighting, which is what the ice bath people wish they could do, but they're afraid to do. So instead they talk on Twitter about how they do ice baths. Every time I see these pussies, I'm just like, bro, there's no amount of ice baths you could get in that would stop me kicking the fuck out of you in front of your 7. So what are you doing? Just go do something real. Go fight. Everything else is cope. In fact, and I'll admit this right now, since I've retired, even I have to cope for the fact that I don't fight anymore. Because fighting is primal. You destroy somebody. It can't be explained or replicated or replaced because it's primal. It's built inside of every man to hurt another man to the point where he can no longer resist. And obviously I'm not a thug. I don't want to do it on the street, so I do it fair competition. Do it on the street, you can sideswipe a guy, you can stab a guy, whatever. That's not fair. It takes balls to get in there and have a fair fight. So now I have to cope. I do it too. Well, I don't fight anymore, I'm retired. So I'm just gonna have to make $100 million a year, I guess. Because if I don't, how else can I replicate the feeling of being the man? So if I make $100 million a year, and if I buy 56 supercars, and if I have 40 properties, and a private jet, and a yacht, all these bitches. Don't listen, baby. All these hoes in a line. Why am I doing all that? I mean, if I was kicking the shit out of people, I probably wouldn't be as motivated. But I'm very motivated to make a shit bunch of money and do all this other stuff because I'm not kicking the shit out of people like I used to. And I'm still training every day. Imagine I didn't even train. Do you have any idea what kind of savage I'd be in my mind? Even being financially successful to try and exert your dominance is cope for fighting. It's all the same. Men are all the same. We're all intrinsically the same. That's how we work. Where did this start? Ice baths? Bro, ice baths. So gay. But I feel like I can extrapolate this to anything. What else do people do that's... In fact, it's all white people shit. Wait. Coming to me now. This is the white man's fault. It's all coming to me. The African ancestors were right. Pan-Africanism. Dr. Umar. Because they're always the ones trying to cope. Maybe because us brothers, like, we're built with the intrinsic ability. The melanin allows us to see the white man's punches coming, and we can slip and we can hurt him. So because we have the intrinsic ability to fight, because black people can fight better, it's inside of us, so we feel like we don't have to cope as much, whereas the white boy feels like he can't fight, so he has to cope. So to try and prove he's a tough guy, he does some dumb shit, like swim with sharks. Think about it. It's all starting to come together. Yeah, you can kick the fuck out of me, but look, I went swimming with sharks. I can still kick the fuck out of you, you're just an idiot. That's the worst cope ever. It doesn't prove anything. What does that prove? That you were lucky? That the shark wasn't particularly hungry? That's what you proved. Your life was not in your hands. There was no skill involved. You were just lucky that the shark was uninterested in tasting your pasty ass. I don't get it. Bro, let me tell you something. I almost went skydiving once. I've already done a Tate speech on this, you can watch it up. I almost went skydiving once. Walked into place, not a single black guy. Should have known. I was like, wait, something's up here. I've done a whole Tate speech on it and why I didn't jump out the plane. But basically, the realization came to me. Jumping out of a plane, the whole game is jump. I'm supposed to die. Ha ha ha, I didn't die. That's the game. Look, I was supposed to die, but I didn't. Once again, no skill involved, no power or masculine, no bravery. I didn't even call it bravery because it's just blind luck, dumb shit. Caving. What the fuck are you white people doing down in caves? There is nothing down there. War and dark. What the fuck are you doing? I've never seen a black person caving. I've never seen one. Being half white, half black gives me unique perspectives. You know, I can tell when it's white people shit, and I can tell when it's black people shit. Bro. But basically all of it is cope for fighting. And I'll admit, there's some things that I wouldn't do that other people will do to try and prove to me they're a tough guy. And you and your flawed logic might think, well, Andrew, if you're so tough and you're so brave and he'll go caving and you won't, doesn't that make him braver than you? And my answer is no, because I can kick the living fuck out of him.
I'm going to offer everyone at home a business opportunity. So I want you to get a pen and paper. And I want you to pay attention because anybody who's watching this stream, for the first time in your life, a billionaire is going to offer you a business opportunity. And we're going to talk about what it is, how it's going to work, why I'm going to allow losers and peasants like you a chance to finally change your miserable lives. I'm going to go through all of it. And first, I want to give a bit of background and explain. I'll take my headphones off because much like my brother, I no longer take this seriously. Explain where all of this has come from. At the absolute highest echelons of masculine capability, where I reside, you have no idea how the world really works. But basically, I am, without tooting my own horn or blowing my own trumpet or being arrogant, one of the most famous, interesting, smart, sexy, tall, brown, gorgeous, charismatic, intelligent people alive. And for that reason, there's a whole lot of people who are very interested in the things I say, which is why the Matrix attacked me in the first place, which is why we went to jail. We've talked at length about the fact that you are only allowed to have an opinion if you're irrelevant, and your relevancy has a direct positive correlation with how much trouble you will get in if you speak about certain subjects. You're allowed an opinion if no one listens, but if people listen to you, you're supposed to say certain things. As well as that, you get a lot of opportunities. A lot of people come to me and say, Andrew, can you talk about this? Or will you talk about this? Sponsorships, affiliates, etc., etc. And I say no to all of it because I don't want to dilute my content or dilute my brand. And I have very little interest in discussing anything other than things I want to talk about because I already have all the money in the world. However, I came up with a genius plan. And I want to discuss this genius plan with you. The genius plan was born from somebody telling me that I should be having conversations with other large accounts on X, trying to convince them to be like me and no longer sell their souls and shill for the devil. But that sounded like a fruitless task, and it also sounded like a whole bunch of work to try and convince a bunch of losers to stop being losers when they're all money-hungry losers. If you look at most of social media, all of these streamers are losers. They'll do anything for clout and money. Everyone on Twitter is full of shit. They're all losers. But there is a shift in consciousness which is taking place. Do you agree with that, Tristan?
I completely agree, and I feel like we are at least in part responsible for that.
Absolutely. So there is a genuine shift in consciousness that's taken place on X. Elon has bought X. Rumble also exists. And age-old narratives which were enforced by the Matrix and propagated and purported are now being destroyed in real time because the truth is setting people free. People had certain ideas about certain things or countries or situations which could not be challenged because the MSM only supported one side of the story. But now the public is awake. We've been lied to too much. And people are starting to understand that everything's a lie and the truth is starting to come out. And for the first time ever, truthful narratives are gaining massive momentum on alternative news platforms like X and Rumble, which means that the general person at home has an understanding of how the Matrix works, and the general person at home is more awake than they've ever been and is more likely to rebel against the garbage which is face.
Yep.
However, the large accounts, instead they just try to enrich themselves.
Yep.
So when I was having this conversation, someone said to me, yeah, you need to finally get the large accounts,
challenge them
and get them to start telling the truth. And then the Matrix will finally be broken because the people at home already know it. So if we can get the large accounts on the side of truth also, then we will win the battle and it'll be over. And then I came up with this genius idea. Instead of trying to convert soulless accounts of clowns to the good side, instead of trying to find people and show them the light who have already sold their souls, why don't I find people who already understand the truth and make them big? Think about it. Instead of me going to an account with 100,000 followers and saying, you're lying and you know you're lying for money, stop lying for money, which is going to be basically impossible. Why don't I take someone who tells the truth and make them have 100,000 followers? Isn't that more productive? Doesn't that prevent rewarding people who shouldn't be rewarded because they sold their souls? Doesn't that give people at home who tell the truth, who want to attack the Matrix and expand their consciousness and the consciousness of humanity, a chance to benefit from a massive following? Isn't that a much better way to approach things? So I came up with the idea of getting 1,350 people to get an account with over 100,000 followers within 6 months, which is 13.5 million followers. These are people who understand the truth of the world. I will work with them, they will work with me, and we'll all work with each other, and we'll create a powerhouse of Aikido truth. We'll create a tidal wave, a tsunami of truth, which will come head on and attack the Matrix like a force field. The Matrix will be hit by this tidal wave of truth, and it will attempt to hold back the tsunami, and eventually it will start to wane and flash in and out like you see in the video games until it eventually collapses, and the Matrix collapses, and the tidal wave of truth sets us all free and washes away our sins. It is my plan to make people famous if they're not an idiot.
That means you, some of our listeners.
That means you, which means I have a business opportunity for 1,350 of you, making you relevant and making you significant in the world, because most of you do not matter. Now, if you're sitting here going, I don't really want to be followed on social media, that's fine. But we're going to talk about why social media is so important, the future battlegrounds, how the battleground has shifted with Elon Musk taking control of X, how we're going to make you famous on social media, and once you've got a bunch of followers, because I want, as everyone knows, my whole mission has always been to make the people who understand how the Matrix really works as rich as possible and as important as possible and as strong as possible, because everybody on my team, on my side, needs to be a capable soldier. Once we tell you how we'll make you famous, we'll then tell you how we will allow you to use that fame to make money so you can monetize your social media accounts. So any one of you sitting at home right now, 6 months from now, can be earning 30 to 40 grand a month from the internet, and you can finally matter for once in the world. You can get a girlfriend on Instagram because you'll no longer be a loser. You can get a restaurant reservation because you'll no longer be a loser. It's win-win for everybody, and you can tell the truth and attack the mate.
If you'll remember 3 or 4 years ago, I was a niche internet celebrity. I was online. I had been banned on everything. I had a small YouTube channel which got banned. I had 40,000 followers on Twitter or something on my 8th account, which kept getting banned. And I had money. I had a few nice cars, 3 or 4 supercars, but a supercar was a big purchase for me. I wouldn't just buy a car like this, which I've never tested, never driven before, just to make a car review video. Like, I don't care about spending 600 grand now for a video. It means nothing to me. But back then, 3 or 4 years ago, 600 grand, I couldn't do that once a week. Now I can do it every week, it doesn't matter. And it made me think that if you've been following me for years, you have seen my meteoric rise to becoming one of the most well-known, well-respected, the most Googled man on the planet. Now to have 8 million followers on Twitter and everybody know who I am and celebrities hang out with me and I'm making $4 million a week and all these crazy things. Surely you're sitting there saying, well, 3 years ago, my life was different than it is now, but across the last 3 years, I haven't achieved what Tate's achieved. Surely you're sitting there saying, 3 years ago, my life was X, and now my life is X plus a little bit. It's not monumentally different. I would like to think anybody who's following me actually sits and looks and goes, wow. Compare him to myself or anyone else on the internet, any of these other celebrities, any of them. Tate has outworked and outperformed all of them. I should have done something amazing with my last 3 years, and I've done nothing. I say these things to people because I think the only way you can truly motivate a man is via shame. You need to make it clear to a man that he's making mistakes. I'm not trying to insult you, and I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm trying to say that it took me 3 years to go from here to the absolute upper echelon of masculine performance on the most well-known, respected people on the planet. You've had the same 3 years, the exact same number of hours. And what have you done with them? What have you even achieved? You might be in the same job, in the same house, with the same girl, driving the same car. You've done nothing. That should upset you. You should feel sad about that. Because it's only when you feel sad about what you've done that you're going to feel enough regret to go through the pain it takes to be massively successful. It's always going to be painful to become successful. So you need to feel shame. You need to find some kind of emotion that's going to drive you through the pain. Imagine where I'm going to be in 3 years from now. And I'm talking about the tangible achievements which I'm prepared to show the world. I'm not sitting here talking about how many children I've had, how many beautiful relationships I have. I'm talking about all the things I keep private. Think in 3 years from now where I'm going to be. We have the same number of hours in the next 3 years, you and I. And I'm going to crush you. And it just makes me sit and wonder, if I was you, I wouldn't be able to accept that. I wouldn't be able to take it. It would bother me in my core. It would hurt my ego in the best possible way. I think a lot of people who know me and who have been following me for a long time know my Ferrari story. Explaining about the guy I drove past in the Ferrari and I couldn't handle it and all my friends didn't care. Well, here I am sitting in a brand new SF90 Stradale Ferrari telling you.
I'm going to say something very logical to you people at home. And if you're stupid, you're not going to understand it. But if you're smart, it's not that difficult a concept. There is no light without dark. 5,000 years ago, the Chinese drew yin and yang for a reason. They are linked. They go together. There is no such thing as a successful person without a failure. Without the failures, there's no success. You need both. For there to be winners, there has to be losers. Therefore, if God is going to give you the chance to become a successful person, He has to make it difficult. He has to lay out a gauntlet, because within that gauntlet, some people will quit, and they can go become losers, which allow the people who do not quit to be winners. I think a lot of people think that my life is just running around in supercars and sleeping with girls and smoking cigars. And anyone who's around me long enough actually says, wow, Andrew, all you do is work. Of course all I do is work. I have $1 billion empire. The Matrix is trying to destroy my life. I have endless females to maintain, children to see. My entire life is work. I have to stay in prime physical condition, ready to destroy my enemies. My entire life is work. So when people want to quit, they want to give up, everybody has an excuse, nobody has any time, they will do it next week, they're a bit tired, they don't understand. That's all loser talk. You're not allowed to do that. That is part of the gauntlet. That is the off-ramp towards loserdom. You're on the highway, you're driving. There's exits all along the way to Loserville, Loser Town. When you're tired, when you don't feel like working, when you don't have enough time, when it's difficult, you can get off the highway anytime you want, but if you stay on the highway, you will end up a winner. When I hear people say, oh, it's hard, or I don't have time, etc., all you're doing is telling me you're a loser. Every single winner feels the same as you do. The difference is they do not quit. They do not give up. They do not make excuses. They stay on the highway. It's amazing what you can achieve if you never give up. My saying, unmatched perspicacity and sheer indefatigability. That point is important. Sheer indefatigability. The inability to become fatigued. If you never quit, if you never give up, if you never give in, you're gonna get exactly what you wanted. All you had to do is not be a fucking coward, and you still failed. I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't care about excuses. God doesn't care about excuses. And the winners who went through the exact same things you're going through, who didn't quit, don't care about excuses. There are winners and losers in the world. You are either a winner who dedicates himself, never gives up, continues to learn, does everything he knows he needs to do regardless of how he feels, or you're a loser who makes excuses and you stay invisible for the rest of human time. Make a choice. Slavery is abolished. So now what do? You're gonna work for me. I'm gonna give you some money, and that money is enough to only buy you a house and some food. We've just put money in the middle. Now, if I can make you do whatever I want for money, and I can print as much money as I want, you're my slave. Because I can print it from the sky, and you need it to live. So you are my slave. Money's not real. So I have all of this money. I have the stored time and energy of other humans. And once you get past a certain level of wealth, you understand, which ties back to COVID, that you're not interested in money. What you're interested in is people. It's always been about having good people around you. You want a beautiful, doting, loving woman who's obsessed with you. You want good brothers who will stand by you and make you motivated. You want bodyguards who are going to protect you. You want people. And then you want to look at it further down the rabbit hole. You want to get more sinister. If you've been born into a lineage or a dynasty or the people who control the world, you want robot people. You don't want to be spoken to disrespectfully. In your empire, in your podcast empire, right? You now have a podcast. Would you allow a member of staff to come along and say, this is bullshit, I don't like how you do this, this is shit, you're shit? Or would you fire him?
I don't know if I would fire them. I would first try to teach them how to behave.
And if they didn't listen?
They're out.
Absolutely. So let's imagine you ran a country.
Okay.
All right. Let's imagine you ran the world. And then let's imagine there's this guy called Talk G who sits down there and becomes the most Googled man in the world for telling the world that COVID's a lie. And you're making everybody run around and do everything you say. You're going to allow that person to get away with it? And now you start to understand, that's how the Matrix operates. So the people who are broken, raised on money, are so obsessed with power and control, which explains a lot of the society we're in, because they don't look up to God. These people think they are God. So
that's the biggest fault.
And they're trying to make robots of us all. They're trying to enslave us.
You know what bothers me more than anything is when I walk into an establishment and the person who's working is like, go to there, and they point at a machine. What breaks my heart is that machine is going to replace you.
Yep.
And you have no idea.
Yep.
So you've gotten in a place where the person above you is encouraging you to be replaced. That's like, hey, see yourself out. Legitimately.
Yep.
See yourself out.
But people don't think. They don't, and they absolutely lack perspicacity. And then you go further down the rabbit hole, because like I said, there's layers to the rabbit hole. I don't know how Alex Jones you want me to go, but he's right about a lot.
All the way.
He's right about a lot of things.
So you're an Alex Jones fan?
I like a lot of the things he says. And I'm not saying I agree with everything he says, but a lot of the things he says have been proven to be absolutely true. You know, you say conspiracy theorist, nowadays that just means you're ahead of the curve, unfortunately. And Alex was talking about, and a lot of other people talking about, and there's a lot of text
which talks about the fact that the people who are in charge of the world, they believe that as AI improves, a huge percentage of the planet are going to become useless eaters. They don't need you anymore.
That actually scares me. The guy who created it even is scared of it.
Well, that's the thing. So let's give a thought experiment. As it stands right now, most people are so uninteresting and so unremarkable that you could replace them online with a chat GPT bot and you wouldn't really notice. Genuinely, that's how boring most humans are. If you're special and remarkable and unique and you're famous or you do whatever, that's different. But most people you could replace with ChatGPT by text, you wouldn't even notice. And that is a free application which is brand new. Imagine we're gonna be in 20 years from now. So we start talking about useless eaters. This has been discussed by very important, very powerful people at length. The same people who are trying to give you the vaccine are talking about the fact that the population of the earth needs to decline. Why do we need, they say it, Bill Gates says it. Why do we need to get rid of people? Well, machines will do it. So why do we need people sitting around who have hopes, dreams, aspirations? They want health care, they want safety, security, children, all of this garbage. We just need somebody to do X job and a machine can do X job. So what do we need these people for? Write down your answer. I bet none of you get it right. You're all such fucking dorks. Well, Power Rangers, I'm thinking Power Rangers. Or in the Batman movie, in Marvel Comics, losers. Thanos. Geeks. Thanos. I'll beat the shit out of you people. What's wrong with you people? The best scene in any movie ever, officially, from Top G, the most compendious, the most respected lord of all beasts of the land and fishes in the sea, the number one top striker, Andrew Tate.
There's no joy without pain. There's no sunshine without rain. You need up and down. This is how the world works.
As a man, you must build yourself. And I agree that society puts huge pressure on men, and it's time for men to perform. As a man, you either perform or you don't. There's no safety net. The men who say I can't feel like it cannot compete with the men who do not say that. And it's player versus player. The man who goes to the gym every single day, regardless of how he feels, will always beat the man who goes to the gym when he feels like going to the gym. And it's player versus player.
A good man controls himself. I have absolute self-control. Emotional control is absolutely and utterly important as a man. You need to understand as a man, there are certain principles under which you act, regardless of how you feel. Bam. I can wake up in a terrible mood. Yes. I can wake up sad. I can ache. I can have a busy day, stressed, etc. I will complete the same tasks as if I woke up in a fantastic mood. I'll do the same things because how I feel has no bearing on the things I'm going to do in my day because I have duty to myself. There is no light without dark. You will not appreciate your six-pack unless you didn't have one and you had to earn it. That's how the world works. So when I talk to these dudes like, oh, but it's, you know what, Tate? Yeah, I agree, but you know, it's hard. It's hard. Of course it is. It's supposed to be. And if you're not cut out for it, then fuck off and live a normal existence and die. Sit there, letting other men enjoy the spoils of being a man and fucking die. If that's what you want to do, is just sit there and exist and then you fade into history unremembered. That's your decision. If you want to level up your character, then you need to get out here and do it. You need to be around brave men. You need to get some balls. You need to get your network together. You need to be paying attention, listen to the truth, humble yourself, stop sitting there with an ego. That's the game. But I made myself this way. I wasn't born this way. I absolutely and utterly made myself this way. And any single one of you men out here can do the same thing. I was always looking for, I wouldn't say happiness or contentment, but I was always looking to try and break out of the 9 to 5, just the normal monotony of day-to-day life. I think that men have a very unique life path, and it's very difficult to try and achieve status as a man. It's not easy to stand out from the crowd. And even what women expect of an important man, you need to be smart, charismatic, intelligent, strong, have a nice car, nice apartment, good network, good friends. You need to be able to handle stress. You need to be competent. There's so many things you need to be able to do. It's difficult for a young man to even have all these things. You need to start leveling up your mentality, your spirituality. You need to level up your ability, physicality. There's so many different ways you can level up, like a video game character, right? Once you have all the unlimited money, you can then start ticking all the stats boxes.
Knowledge.
No. When guys say to me, okay, well, how do I make women respect me? Well, I say, well, how do you respect yourself? That's the first thing. No one's gonna respect you if you don't respect yourself. Do other men respect you? Like, how do you act in a way that commands respect from anybody? I say, look, if you focus on yourself and make yourself being who you are, being a high value male, women will detect it and they won't be so difficult for you.
You have to respect yourself first. And how does a woman respect a man? When she sees that he respects himself and other men respect him. You need to understand that the world you live in as a man, in my personal view, has been very purposefully constructed. It's been constructed in a way to destroy your masculine power. And the future of the world, especially in the West, is a further encroachment on your sovereign ability, your sovereign thoughts, your base instincts, the things that make you happy. Absolutely nobody is concerned with male happiness on any level. They don't want you to be happy. They want you to be miserable. A miserable slave in a tax bracket. And you have to understand this. And the only way you can combat against it is to take significant action. You have to take significant action. You have to use the internet. It's the tool they're using. The internet is the tool they're using to brainwash the masses. You need to combat it and use their own tool against them to seek out the kind of information, knowledge, and friends that you need to have around you. You are going to be the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So that, if everyone understands that, as an intelligent person, you're going to be extremely careful and you're going to curate heavily the 5 people you hang around with. So you need to be aware of what's happening around you, and you need to curate for yourself a social network of people who understand that and are doing their best to combat that. That is the most basic imperative of the masculine frame, which has been destroyed in real time. They are trying to convince you that you should act how you feel. You should show more of your feelings. If you feel this way, you should show it. If you want to cry, cry. Look, I have no problem with guys crying. What I'm saying is the reason they're trying to bring out emotionality in you is most of the time you don't feel like doing the things you're supposed to do. But the true masculine frame throughout history was doing the things they didn't want to do, but they knew they had to do because they had honor and duty. When you remove self-control from men, not only do you get emasculated weak men, but what you also get is very dangerous men. There are actually far less genuinely high-value men than there are pretty girls. You can go to any club in any country in the world. I've been to 72 countries. You can go to any club in any country in the world and see pretty girls. If you're going to find a young, in shape, smart, tall, intelligent, rich man, it's extremely difficult to find. And that man has options. He has more options than a beautiful girl. And I'll tell you something. There's always been a large proportion of men in the world who made the choice to stay where they are. And life for them wasn't that bad. But as we reach the future and as time goes on, you're going to notice now that the people who don't chase having a masculine network, if they're not going to be excellent upon themselves and they're not going to be plugged into a serious circle of achievers, their life's going to become terrible. You could just be a normal dude and your life really wasn't that bad. But now we live in a situation where you just can't just be a normal dude anymore. Being a normal dude is no longer an option.
So as a man, you have to be doing something to try and improve your status. There's lots of different ways to do it, right? But if you're a man with truly no status in society, now it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So you have to understand that as a man, you got to gear your life in a certain way. One of the easiest ways to get status is who you know, right? A lot of it's networking, and if you know the right people, you can get some status, at least off of them, to some degree. Every single man on earth with enough work can become one. That's the counter side, right? So there is hope at the end of the tunnel, but you got to get up and do it.
You know what I truly think a high value man is? Okay, it's a few things, right? So there's the obvious evolutionary triggers. The easiest way to be a high value man is a man who's capable of violence. You look at it from a biological trigger. It doesn't matter if he's got muscles or he's big or he's tall, whatever. Women understand from a biological perspective, they like a man who can fight.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if your man had money, a Ferrari, everything, but if you knew for a fact, if any dude stepped to him, he'd get sparked, you wouldn't want him, right? So that's the first thing. We're suffering from cowardice. We talk about all the problems in the world. It's easy to talk about them all. But you can narrow them all down to the exact same thing. Cowardice, masculine cowardice, all of it. All of this is masculine cowardice. That's all it is. And you're not going to be able to imitate being a G. You have to go out there and you have to suffer as a man. You got to go through trauma to be a G as a man. Too many dudes out here are trying to imitate. That's what all this is. You're talking about game. You're trying to be something you're not. The real game is to be the man. That's the game. As a man, you need to go through trauma. You need to go through difficult periods. You need to go through things which are extremely uncomfortable to become any kind of man of value. Every single woman on this panel, if you were to ask her to describe the kind of man she wants, she would describe a man who she thinks makes her feel safe, who is dominating, who is smart, who is charismatic, who is interesting, etc. You cannot be all of those things by accident. Any man who grows up with a very, very easy life, who never goes through anything, who's born with a silver spoon in his mouth is the exact kind of punk these women don't want to touch, right?
Right.
As a man, you need to suffer and you will survive. And you need to internalize it, not become a weirdo, accept that the trauma is going to make you strong enough to become the kind of man that's respected by society. You need to use it for your own advantage.
Don't understand people who say they lack motivation in life, because I'll make this extremely clear. If you're not pushing and striving for something, life is so mundane. I've always had this problem with literal crippling perpetual boredom. I was bored. I had no money. I'm carrying boxes of ice. I'm a smart guy. I'm not playing chess anymore, right? I'm 34 now, so this is quite a few years ago. It's before the internet, before Facebook was all big and nothing. What do you do with your life? What's there to do? I thought I need to do something which drains me so that I can go to sleep at night without frustration. And if I kickbox, if I run 3 miles to the gym and then fight for 3 hours and run 3 miles home, at least I can sleep. I literally couldn't sleep. I wouldn't say it's ADHD, but I was just frustrated. And then on top of that, I've always had this huge frustration in regards to money. Even though I was poor, I'd grow up around a bunch of other poor kids, and we'd be walking to school or walking to college, and a Ferrari would drive past. And they'd go, "Oh, cool, Ferrari." And I'd say, "Doesn't that annoy you?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'd be like, "He knows, he's hacked the matrix. Don't you see? How does he have 400 grand for a car? He knows something we don't know. Well, aren't you annoyed that there's people out there living a lifestyle that we can't ever aspire to? We're never going to work a job and pull this off. Doesn't this bother you?" And they all be like, "No." But me, I was always angry. I was always angry, not angry in a go to jail way, but just I was angry. I was like, something isn't right. Something doesn't add up. So kickboxing was my answer. I just started kicking people's ass, and I just felt a little bit better. That was kind of how it worked.
At what point did you realize you were like world class at this?
So when my first day in the gym, I walk in, my coach, it was 4 Bosnian men. I was a child. It was 4 Bosnian men in this tiny little terrible gym. It was not like a commercial gym or a commercial class. And he said, "Can you fight?" And I said, "Yeah, I've done karate for a few years." That I got knocked clean out on my first day, of course. And I guess they expected me to never come back, but I kept coming back. And my coach said to me, look, after about a year, he said, "Look, I want to put you into a fight." And he took me down to a town called Southend-on-Sea. And my first fight wasn't kickboxing. My first fight was actually MMA. And it must have been a little bit over a year because I was 18. And I was fighting a 24-year-old security doorman. And being a stupid American, I thought pounds and kilos were the same because I weighed in at like 82 pounds. He weighed in at like 90. No, I weighed in at 82 kilo. He weighed in at 90 kilo, which is an 8 kilo difference, which is almost like 20 pounds. And I was like to my coach, "Is that a big difference?" He's like, no, don't worry about it. I was like, okay. But thinking back, a 20-pound difference is a big difference in fighting, right? And I got in there and I won. I didn't win necessarily through skill, but I just kept going and I just outgassed him. And towards the end, I'm just on top of him, just punching him in the face, right? And I'm only 18 years old. So from there, my coach was like, "Okay, you have some potential." And for a long time, I believed it was my only way out because like once again, before the internet and stuff, I'm going to college. I finished college. I don't believe in university because I'm too smart to get in debt for formal education. I'm too smart for that job. So I finished college. I'm working these sales jobs. I was always a good salesman. So I'm working sales jobs. I'm bringing in, $3,000, $4,000 a month, whatever. But I thought my only way to get rich is fighting. I couldn't think of another way to get rich. And I didn't fight only to get rich, but I saw light at the end of the tunnel. So that's all I wanted to do was just fight.
And so at what point do you go fight for the first world championship?
So I fight for my first ever world championship on 2 days' notice. So I'm in Slovakia. There was a town. I'm going to tell everyone now on this podcast. I'm going to give the secret away. If you're bored right now, if you're watching this on the internet, load up Google Maps, right? And there's a town called Košice, Kosice. And it's on the opposite end of Slovakia to Bratislava. So Bratislava is the capital, and then you have Košice on the other side. It's 4.5 hours drive from Bratislava. It's about 4 hours drive from Warsaw and about 4 hours drive from Budapest. It's in the middle of nowhere. But all the villages and all the towns, everyone around this little town, every hot girl within about 400 square kilometers lived in this town. Because there was nowhere else to go, right? And they were all there. And when I was going there, this is pre-EU. They didn't have the euro. And me and Tristan used to go there on holiday because we would clean up. And when I say clean up,
Tristan's your brother.
My brother. And when I say clean up, I don't mean clean up like you clean up on holiday with some in Mexico. I mean clean up with 10s, like supermodels. It was unbelievable. And a beer is like 30 cents. And we're the only men there who speaks English. So I was in Košice, and then I got a phone call from Amir saying you have a world title fight in 2 days. I was literally drunk at the time. And
who's Amir?
Amir's my coach, sorry. Right. He's a Bosnian Muslim. He fought in the Yugoslav conflict. He got shot 6 times and didn't die. That's cool, right? So he's still like father's me. And I must have been crazy. I was like, okay. I can't explain, and I want to say this in a way where it's truly understood. when I say I didn't give a shit if I lived or died, I don't mean that in a sad, suicidal way. I mean that in an empowered, charging at the gunfire. Back then, I didn't think I had anything that really made me really give a shit about living. Not in a do sad way, just in a let's go out in a blaze of glory. Then I'm not rich. I don't have nothing. I'm just banging girls in Slovakia. Well, who is this guy? So it was against the French world champion, Jean-Luc Benoit was his name. And the opponent pulled out and they needed a guy on 2 days' notice. And I had to lose 6 kilos, which is around 13 or 14 pounds in 2 days. So
Is that easy or hard?
That's hard, bro. 13 pounds in 2 days, a lot of weight to lose. So I just stopped eating, stopped drinking, sitting in saunas, spitting all the water, just dying. Finally made weight, went to France, fought him 12 rounds, my first ever 12-round fight as well, fought him. And they gave the decision to him, but I was wrong. I beat him. And I beat him. I didn't knock him out, but I beat him. And
is this one of the 4 world championships, or this is stuff a thing?
No, yeah. Well, it should be, yeah. But the tape was so convincing. The tape was actually sent off to the ISKA, the fighting organization, and they demanded a rematch. They knew I won, right? Okay. But he's French. It was in France, and fighting has a lot of politics to it. You have to understand. I mean, UFC is UFC, the real big ones, but outside of the smaller ones, it makes more sense for the French promotion of a French champion. They'll sell a lot more tickets and a lot more pay-per-views with a French champion.
So basically, either you knock him out or it's going to go.
It's kind of like that, right? So they commanded a rematch, and I rematched him 7 months later and knocked him out in the 8th. And I became world champion.
Okay. Why keep going once you've won?
There's always a new mountain to climb. I mean, that's a good question, because that's also kind of the reason I quit. Because it's like, why keep going? Well, there's always someone new to fight, and I'm still not financially where I want to be. And I don't know what else I want to do with my life. So I'll keep going, right? So I fought again. I beat another Frenchman. And then I fought again. I beat 2 Dutch guys to become 4-time world champion. But one day I woke up and I was like, is becoming 5-time world champion going to improve my life? I mean, I've already do I need 5 belts?
How much money do they pay for these fights?
It's $3,000, $2,000. It's not even, you need to work on the side. You're giving up all your free time to get punched in the face. Like, it's a terrible decision. Like, I don't know why I decided to do it. But eventually, once I was world champion, I'd get like $100,000 to fight, but I'd give 20% to my manager. Then the UK, with the UK taxes, 40-50% would disappear. And sometimes you only fight twice a year or whatever. I was certainly not rich. I didn't consider myself
rich. So you get like
rich.
30 to 40%.
Yeah, and I didn't consider myself rich. Like 30-40 grand chunks, twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. And living in London rents, you need a car. You try, like, you're not rich in any way. And that's actually the reason I retired, because I woke up one day and I thought, I'm giving 6 hours a day of absolute focus and energy to this. And I believe I'm smart enough that if I put that much tenacity into something else, I can be a multimillionaire. I truly believed that. I was like, I've realized now I've reached the pinnacle of kickboxing. My choice is either to change over to MMA, which I was offered to do earlier in my career, but at the time, the kickboxing contract paid more money. I had to pay the bills, so I went kickboxing. Change over to MMA, learn to wrestle, change over to UFC, blah, blah, blah. But this is also like 7-8 years ago, where even the UFC didn't pay the money it pays now.
But the UFC still doesn't pay that much money, from what I understand.
No, if you're like top 5 or champion, yeah. But most of the dudes you're going to see there in the prelims, they're getting 10 grand to fight, 9 grand to fight. It's nothing, right? So it'd be like starting my career all over again. And at the age of 28, I thought, I don't have the gumption to start again. I've been through hell for this. I've broken my hand 8 times. My ribs have been broken. I don't want to do this all over again. So
what do you do when you realize that, hey, maybe I don't want to keep fighting?
I decided to get rich.
What does that mean to you? When you're sitting there, you're getting, $30,000-$40,000 kind of net on a per fight basis. Is rich to you like, hey, I want a couple $100,000, $1 million, $20 million, $1 billion?
I want 30 or 40,000 every month.
30 or 40,000 every month, so about $500,000 a year.
Yeah. I thought if I had that much money, I could do whatever I want.
Okay.
That's what I decided.
So what's step 1 that you do?
So step 1 is, maybe that's how we ended up here together, my friend. Step 1 is, decided to be very logical about it. Chess player, right? So it's like, I want money. What is money? I think the most dangerous men on earth are the weak men. I think inside of every single man, we're born with a fire inside of us that if we do not control, can destroy ourselves and other people. And if you look at men who have no emotional control, because that's what they're trying to teach us to have. They're saying, listen, you're a man, you're allowed to just cry all the time and have no emotional control, no stoicism, just react to your emotions. Do you know what happens when you tell men to just react to their emotions? Anger. You have school shootings, you have rape, you have violence. That's what happens when you tell men to have no emotional control. These school shooters are kids with no emotional control. Rapists are men with no emotional control.
Violence and the bullshit you see on the street are men with no emotional control. Telling men to not be stoic is going to create a breed of violent young men who have no emotional control, can't control their emotions, and act out on them. That is absolutely and utterly more dangerous to society than me coming along and saying, listen, I don't give a fuck how you feel, young man. It doesn't matter how you feel. You have duties and you have responsibilities as an adult, and you must comply and act a certain way regardless of how you feel. That is better for society as a whole, especially as I'm only teaching the tenets of, listen, go to the gym anyway. Doesn't matter. You don't feel like it. Go anyway. Listen, your girlfriend left you. Your heart's broken. You're not allowed to stalk her. She doesn't want you. Get the fuck over it. What I'm saying is good for the world. They're saying, no, act out your emotions. Cool, you're creating stalkers, rapists, and school shooters. These people are fucking dangerous. If you're not a competitive male, you're going to be perma-depressed. You don't have a mental disease. You're just in a competitive environment and you are losing. You need to become a competitive person. There's no easy way. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck. But if you get to Top G, the name, if you get there, it's a life worth living. That's what I'm saying. And then millions of young men are going, wow, he's showing that you can be born from nothing, single parent on a fucking council estate in the worst town in England, be stabbed, come from nothing, and survive and end up with a multi-millionaire. Maybe I can do it if I work hard and I'm diligent and I try hard and I'm really giving hope to the world. And then they delete me. Then they put up a new thing about men's mental health, saying which pill they should take. And then they put James Charles of him on the algorithm. This shit's evil. It's genuinely criminal. I am nothing but a positive force for the world. And this is what I was talking earlier about the hero's arc and the arc and the redemption, because I think that inside of human consciousness, people are very, very familiar with the idea of the arc of a villain turning into a hero. It's in the Bible. It's in every superhero movie. The guy starts off bad. He's crazy. He's too bad. We don't want him. He's a maverick. You can't control him, blah, blah, blah. But towards the end, you're like, where's Batman? Where's Batman at? And it's going to take a matter of time before people realize, you know what? Tate was actually a good force for the youth. Perhaps he needs to create his message. Perhaps he needs to take his newfound fame on board and change the way he says certain things. Agreed. I'm not infallible as an individual. But to sit here and say I'm dangerous and I must be deleted is disservice to all the men of the world. And then they're going to start printing articles talking about men's mental health. They don't give a fuck about men. They don't give a shit about the 18-year-old boy out there who can't get a girlfriend who's genuinely lonely and the fucking sports star's fucking them all. I'm telling him what he has to do. I'm saying, listen, bro, of course the sports star's fucking them all. He's a G. You ain't shit. If you were a chick, would you choose you? Because I fucking wouldn't. So whose fault is that? The best thing about being a man is you get to build your character from the ground up. You're not born with any value. You're born as a blank slate. I decided I wanted to be a big toting, kickboxing, Bugatti driving fucking bad boy. I did it all myself. You get to choose you want to be a musician and be sensitive and play guitar and get them that and be important that way. You get to choose you want to go get in the cage and kick the fuck out of somebody. You get to choose to be anything you want. But you have to go and do it. It's going to be difficult because it's competitive. But that's the beauty of being a man, the blank slate. And I inspire men to look at themselves as a blank slate and go, you know what? I ain't shit now, but I can become anything I want. How could I possibly give up on myself? You are so lucky. You have all the building blocks to become the exact kind of man you want to be. If none of this shit happened to you, when something else bad happens to you later, you wouldn't be able to deal with it. Fantastic. And he goes, no, but you know, this. He replied again with more excuses. Said, why are you making excuses? I just told you what happened to you is a good thing. You need to reframe your mind. Bad things happened to Batman. They killed his parents. Do you understand? That's why he's Batman. You've just told me you have the building blocks to become you might become top G when I retire. Fantastic. What are you complaining about? He goes, well, what do? I said, you need to work. Take all that trauma. If you're truly heartbroken, my friend, and we've all been there as men, if you're truly heartbroken, you can't sleep. That means you're going to get in fantastic shape. You better hit the gym. You have nothing else to do. Stop watching YouTube. Stop emailing me. I want pictures of you in the gym. Get to fucking work. Heartbreak's a fantastic motivator, as is depression, as is sadness. Great. Look at what's pissing you off and make sure it never happens again. If you were jacked and rich as fuck, she probably wouldn't have left your ass. So get your shit together. Right? So this is so important. Trauma is such an important part of being a man. And the Matrix talks of trying to say that trauma is terrible and avoid trauma, or if you get trauma, take a pill, and that's unrealistic. Trauma's going to happen to you, and you as a man need to internalize it, accept it, and weaponize it to become the best version of yourself you can be. And that requires mental strength and stoicism. It does not require, be more emotional. If you're more emotional, you're going to fall apart when shit happens. I learned this. My father was a chess grandmaster, right? And I used to travel around America with him, and he'd play chess. And back then, there was a lot of former KGB guys who played chess in these massive tournaments. And when they spoke, they were very subversive. He'd introduce you to his girlfriend and she'd be his wife.
other girlfriend, she's his wife, and then his friend is his daughter, and then they just say things that aren't really true. Another thing they do is they're very, very emotive with their hands, which is a habit that I kind of learned sometimes. So if they were sitting there and an argument got kind of heated, they'd begin to move their hands along as they disagree. Listen to me, listen, da-da-da-da, and they move their hands because then you can't see if they're going to hit you. So they start to move their hands and you get used to it and then whack, right? So there's a few things I picked up from them, but there's a degree of subversion. So if I sit and say I have 5 wives or 10 wives or 1 wife or no wife, I like that the Matrix doesn't completely understand why I have. That's one of the main reasons I do it. The second thing is this. I sat there with a reporter from the Telegraph who said that, why would you have 5 wives? If you cheat on them, they're unhappy. And I said, my friend, who are you to tell women how they feel and what decisions they want to make? How insulting of you. How chauvinistic are you to sit and say that women do not have the independent thought to decide I am prepared to share the top G because of his qualities and accolades and financial capability, as opposed for you to sit here and say they're not allowed to think that. They have to think what we believe they should think, what the Matrix tells them they should think. There are plenty of beautiful women out there who will say, you know what, a man like him, he might do this and that on the side, but you know what?
People will constantly tell you to not talk in a way which is full of conviction. People do not like you to be arrogant and have an ego. This is the worst thing ever. Let me tell you the fact, the number one facet of the G mindset. Your life is never going to be worse if you walk through the world believing you are the fucking man. You wake up and look in the mirror and go, I'm the fucking man. I am the man. There's no one on this planet who can do shit I couldn't do if I put my mind to it. I don't give a fuck how good you are at piano. If I decide to play piano, I would be better than you at piano. I believe that. I don't just say these things, I fucking believe them. And when you go through life believing you really, really are the man, there are very few downsides. The downsides are everyone's going to call you an arrogant, everyone's going to call you arrogant, everyone's going to call you a dickhead, everyone's going to say he has a big ego. You're going to lose a few loser friends. Who cares? What you are going to gain is other people on the same path. You're going to gain other people who think, yeah, well, I'm the fucking man too, this guy's the man, let's make some money. That's what's going to happen. So the first thing you can do with the G mindset is you need to start believing you are the fucking man. Even if you're not the man yet, even before I was world champion, I knew I was going to be the man. So I don't give a fuck. And I was happy to say that to anybody. When people called me arrogant and stupid and deluded, I just sit there and look at them and say, yeah, fuck you. I'm going to be. First thing you have to believe you're the fucking man, you can achieve anything. And when I say that, I'm going to say that again. You have to believe you're the fucking man, and you have to believe you can achieve anything. I'm not saying you can achieve anything easily. I'm not saying it's not going to take a whole bunch of work. I'm not saying it's going to happen quickly. But you have to believe you can achieve anything. I'll tell you something now. I don't give a fuck if it's being an astronaut. I don't care about climbing Mount Everest. You give me enough time to train, I will get it done. I know that for a fact. I know who I am as a man, as a person. The second thing is, you need to be perspicacious. You need to understand that in this world, there's a whole bunch of people doing amazing shit that you are not doing. And that needs to piss you off. Because if it pisses you off, you become motivated by it. I was the only one who was pissed off when that Aston Martin was next to me and had my sales job. I was the only one who was pissed off when I saw that Ferrari drive past. Other people were not annoyed by it. When they're not annoyed by it, they're not driven to beat it. You understand? They're not driven to be where that person was. You need to be annoyed, and I'm telling you to be angry. Anger is a fantastic force. Like I said, the world tells you not to be arrogant, it tells you not to be angry. It's 2 things it tells you to do. Don't be arrogant, don't have an ego, and you don't have anger. You're a fucking man. You're a full-grown man. It's perfectly fine for you to be pissed off. It's perfectly fine for you to look around at your life, look at the girl you're fucking, look at the house you live in, look at the car you drive, and get pissed off and go, you know what, I want a hotter bitch. I want a fucking nicer house, and I want a faster car. There's nothing wrong if you take that anger and you direct it in the correct direction. This is the reason I stopped fighting now. People go, why do you stop fighting? Because I fought, and I went through hell to get everything I now have. I had nothing. I had nothing. And I wanted the life I now have. Now I wake up in one of my 3 mansions with one of my 7 supercars, one of my 15 women. What do I need to fight for? People have different motivations for different things. Some fighters out there who fight for other reasons. My motivation was I was pissed off at the world. And now I'm not as angry as I used to be, so I don't believe I'm as good a fighter as I used to be. I'll still whoop some ass. I'm not as good as I used to be. So that's why I decided to retire early. But this is the second thing. First thing, move to the man. Second thing, you need to get angry about your situation. And you don't own the home you're in, get pissed off. If there ain't a Ferrari on your drive, get pissed off. If you don't have 10 Playboy Bunny level beauties, get pissed off. And well, what the fuck? You need to sit there and realize, whoa. I have a few years of consciousness, and even less than that, I have a few short years as a young man, because age will damage you. I mean, if you're a millionaire in your 60s, it's not nearly as good as being a millionaire at my age. I became a millionaire at 28. So you need to realize you've got a few short years as a young man, you're fucking wasting them. You need to sit there and go, fuck, shit, get angry. Because getting angry, forced, directed anger is an extremely powerful force. And these are the first two things you can do for achievements. Only person who gives a shit about your life truly is you. And if you don't give a shit, then you're fucked. But point two, get angry, you're going to start giving a shit very soon. After you get angry, you need to realize that nobody is going to give you the things you want. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump is president or not. You use Trump plan, but it doesn't make a difference. No politician is going to make you rich. No one else is going to come along and say, I'm going to concentrate my effort on fixing your life. Nobody. You have to understand you're out here alone, absolutely alone. When you understand these three things, you start to see how a mindset comes together. Nobody's going to save you. Fuck. It's totally down to you. You're pissed off with your current situation and you want to change it. Plus, you believe you can do absolutely anything. This is how I thought at 18 years old. Because at a very young age, when I had my prime resource of energy and power at 18, 19 years old, I understood those three tenets. I believe I can do anything. I'm pissed off I don't have the life I want. And nobody else is going to give it to me. These are three things you need to understand. If any one of these elements is missing, you'll never have the right mindset. The G mindset will never formulate if any one of these elements is missing. All three are absolutely essential. And the sooner you get your act together, the sooner you start to panic and worry and be concerned that you're 24 or 25, you're not fucking rich yet. There's 24 and 25-year-olds out there who got a contract for a fucking NBA with their parents, so they won the lottery, who knows what. There's 24 and 25-year-olds out there who are multimillionaires fucking the hot models. These Instagram girls with 3 million followers, they're getting dicked by someone and it ain't you. And that needs to piss you off. You need to get concerned. You get worried. You shit, I'm running out of time. You need to get some urgency in your life. Put these three things together. It's absolutely essential. It's the beginning of the G mindset. When you have these three things totally done, I'll tell you what happens. I'll tell you what happened for me. So I became a sayer. So my brother used to say, become a sayer. And what that means is I made a pact to him that my word was going to bring strength and honor. And that if I said something, I meant it.